Hello, friend of faithful connection. Let your mind settle in the tolerance of the night. There is an extremely accurate biological truth that for a long time we have often unintentionally forgotten, which is that there always exists an extremely special moment right before sleep arrives, which is the exact time your body truly has the ability to heal all wounds itself. That moment does not lie in when you are already fast asleep, nor is it when you have just woken up tomorrow morning. But it is the fragile threshold space between the state of being awake and sleeping. However, the painful truth of modern life is that most of us unintentionally ruin this golden moment without even knowing your body has laid down on the soft mattress, but your nervous system is still standing guard in a state of high alertness. We close our eyes, but inside we are still as tense as a soldier who has not yet received orders to rest. Monastics, since ancient times, understood this secret deeply. They did not heal the body with tired efforts or by the coercion of the will while sleeping. What they did was simple, but much more powerful, which is, they knew how to fully protect what happens right before sleep begins, so the body can perform its own great function. Why healing begins before sleep. Hello, friend of faithful connection. We often live with a common misunderstanding that sleep is when healing happens automatically. But in reality, sleep and cell repair are two completely different processes. You can lie still for 8 hours every night, but wake up in the morning still feeling the body heavy and the spirit exhausted. That is because you are only sleeping in a survival state and have not yet truly entered deep recovery mode. The human body inherently carries an ancient intelligence, and it always prioritizes defense before thinking about repair. As long as your nervous system is still in an alert state and still feels the signals of anxiety or unfinished tasks, then the regeneration process will be delayed indefinitely. Imagine the nervous system is like a strict gatekeeper standing before a fortress. If that soldier still believes there is danger lurking out there, then he will never lower his weapon to allow the healing armies to go inside to repair your body house. When you enter sleep with a brain that is still tense, your body will understand that the battle is not yet over. It will continue to maintain the amount of defense hormones in the blood instead of secreting nutrients to revive cells. The result is you are sleeping to survive and not sleeping to revive. Our biggest problem is not the lack of sleep time, but the lack of a complete letting go right before sleep actually begins. Healing is not a natural gift that falls down when you close your eyes. It is a privilege that you need to actively open by sending a signal of absolute safety to yourself right at this moment. The secret of the monastics. Hello, friend of faithful connection. The secret of the monastics actually does not lie in mystical rituals or high-level qigong exercises. Difficult to touch, that secret is so simple. It is a bit surprising to our rational heads, which is learning how to send an accurate physiological signal to the body right at the threshold of sleep. Masters from ancient times understood that you cannot use commands to force your body to get well, but you can completely create a climate for the body to do it itself. And the first step of the first minute is sending a message of absolute peace. Right now, when you are lying very still in the stillness of this space, I invite you to direct your entire attention toward the breath. You should merely observe the breath exactly as it is. Absolutely do not try to change the rhythm or breathe very deeply in a forced way. If the current breath is short, then you know it is short. If the breath is shallow, then just let it be shallow. Respect the natural rhythm of life flowing inside this form. However, there is a small but extremely sacred detail that monastics always emphasized, which is the moment when the breath leaves the body. Try letting your exhale flow very slowly, very smoothly, and a bit longer than the inhale. Imagine you are gently loosening a tight rope, so every pressure in the chest is slowly released out. According to that breath, inside our body, there is an invisible but extremely powerful connection between the exhale and the central nervous system. When you actively prolong the exhale, naturally and gently, you are silently activating the vagus nerve. This is the universal switch to transition your entire system from a survival state to a state of powerful recovery. Through this tiny action, you are telling the brain that everything now is very stable. There is no danger lurking, and you can completely allow yourself to lower every protective layer to rest. You need to understand deeply a truth that when the body receives the message that you are safe, the healing process will automatically begin according to a most primitive instinct, without you having to effort or demand anything further. Healing begins as soon as the body understands that it has been allowed to rest. Listening to the whole body. Hello, friend of Fateful Connection. We gently move to the second minute by expanding the light of awareness to the whole body, lying still on the mattress. I invite you to glide your attention from the top of the head down to the tips of the toes, like a gentle wave covering all things. If you start to feel an ache or a certain area is tense, then please do not hurriedly struggle to find ways to fix or drive it away. Our habit is often focusing excessively on the faults and trying to use the will to adjust. But that very intervention makes the body even more contracted and tired. In this moment, just play the role of a most sincere and tolerant listener. Let the body be expressed as it is without any judgment. When your brain stops trying to play the role of manager or an architect seeking ways to repair the body house, then that is when the ancient natural intelligence will automatically return. This is the moment of giving way, where you transition from the state of preparing for sleep to the state of allowing sleep to take place. You do not need to perform any healing action because healing is inherently a self-flowing stream when it no longer meets the obstruction of the rational head. Just be silent and listen to the most subtle vibrations on your flesh, and you will see the body's self-repair mechanisms are being activated miraculously. The moment of doing nothing. Hello, friend of Fateful Connection. We enter the third minute, the most precious minute, and also the most true healing moment of this entire journey tonight, which is the state of total non-action. In this sacred moment, I invite you to courageously give up. Even monitoring the breath or observing the body, let yourself dissolve into the vast stillness of the night without needing to perform any further action. This is not the time for you to lie there and silently check whether the body is lighter yet, or impatiently expect sleepiness to arrive to confirm that you practiced correctly. Dear friend, that very lurking in the need to monitor results is a form of subtle tension, and it is the biggest barrier separating you from the flow of true recovery. Always remember that the deepest healing can only happen when there is no longer any supervisor standing there to grade or monitor your progress. Tonight, you do not need to hope for anything, and do not need to wait for any result. Just allow yourself to be present in the most empty way, like a drop of water melting into the vast ocean, because a sacred wisdom from ancient times always reminds us that true healing only begins at the exact moment when you completely stop monitoring yourself. Common mistakes. Hello, friend of Fateful Connection. I know you have efforted a lot on the journey to find health and peace for yourself. Maybe you have tried many methods from meditation to breathing exercises or healing music. But there is an extremely subtle paradox that people with more good-natured minds are more likely to encounter, which is that you are trying too hard to be healed right before sleep. In Buddhist teachings, every craving, even craving for the best thing, silently contains seeds of greed and attachment. When you lie down with a clear expectation that tonight I must be recovered, or I must wake up in a healthier state, then inadvertently you have sent a signal of unsafety to your nervous system. Expectation is actually a form of pressure, and pressure is a danger signal that makes the body not dare to loosen up completely to enter repair mode. You are turning your bed into a laboratory and turning yourself into a strictly monitored object. Try observing again to see if a part of you is still silently standing guard nearby, to ask the question whether the pain has eased yet or whether the mind has actually become less agitated. That very lurking and constant monitoring makes your self-recovery system never truly have the necessary space to operate. I want you to remember deeply the truth that absolute healing never takes place under the strict supervision of the will. We often mistakenly think that control will bring faster results, but in reality, recovery can only bloom in an atmosphere of freedom and most complete letting go. If you try harder to be healed, then that very effort becomes a layer of fog covering the light of self-recovery. Learn to give up, even your healing goal, right at this moment, to return the body to the great intelligence of nature. When there is no longer anyone standing there to wait for a sign or demand a result, then that is when the miracle of true self-healing really begins to appear in the most quiet and humble way. The deepest secret. Hello, friend of fateful connection. We touch the deepest secret and also the most important center of this entire journey, which is the act of ending today completely right before the threshold of sleep. There is a truth that for a long time we often unintentionally forget, which is your great body absolutely cannot begin the repair process. If your mind is still holding on to unfinished things, you may have laid very still and performed superficial muscle relaxation steps. But if deep in your heart you are still silently playing the role of a boss, worrying about a project, a parent wondering about children, or a child agonizing over old mistakes, then, in fact, you have not yet left the battlefield of the daytime. Your nervous system is still having to consume a huge source of energy to maintain those identities and those responsibilities. And when energy is still pouring into anxiety processing centers, then it is no longer strong enough to serve the work of sacred cell regeneration. Monastics in the past practiced an extremely powerful secret right before sleep came. They performed an inner gesture that I call temporary renunciation of control over life. Before sinking deep into the darkness, tell your entire psychophysiological system a confirmation that, in the coming hours, I absolutely do not have anything left to resolve. Please note that this is not merely empty words or a repeated affirmation for the sake of form, but it must be a true inner gesture, a complete laying down of the weapons of the tired will. You are actively declaring a short holiday for all your efforts and all your intentions. Imagine you are putting the entire plan of life, all worries, and even unanswered questions of today, into a box, and placing it outside the bedroom door gently. You are not at all escaping responsibility or rejecting life. You are just practicing a high-level biological wisdom, which is allowing yourself to be absent so life can renew itself without the intervention of the anxious ego. When you truly imbue the notion that tonight you have no work left to do and no one left to become, you will notice a staggering change taking place in every muscle fiber. A feeling of lightness, like just shedding 1,000 pounds of burden, will spread throughout the body, helping your breath become deeper and freer than ever. This is the way that Zen masters have allowed the body to be healed in the most miraculous way throughout thousands of years. Letting go of consciousness. Hello, friend of fateful connection. We touch the final threshold of letting go, which is the moment you accept to let your consciousness be completely dissolved into the gentle darkness. Deep sleep is actually a state where the ego is temporarily absent. The time when you are no longer a separate individual with your own stories and names. There is a rather ironic truth that people who have the strongest ability to control during the day, those who always want everything according to their own will, are the ones who often encounter the most difficulty in touching deep sleep at night. That is because the monitoring habit is soaked deep into the subconscious, making you, even when lying down, still silently want to witness the moment you sink into unconsciousness. You want to know exactly when you sleep and want to be the witness for your own rest. But dear friend, the light of conscious awareness and the darkness of deep sleep can never coexist at one point in time. To truly be healed most deeply, you are forced to be courageous, to let yourself disappear temporarily from the flow of awareness. Turn off the lamp of curiosity and the need to want to manage reality right now. Imagine sleep is like an extremely shy and delicate guest. That guest will never enter the house if the owner is still standing with eyes wide open at the threshold, with full scrutiny and lurking. Only when that owner truly leaves, and when the room of consciousness is completely without a person standing guard, then at that time, sleep can gently step forward and cover your entire soul with infinite peace. Tonight, I invite you to give up even the right to be a witness for yourself, and allow yourself to fall into the zone of absolute unknown, when there is no longer anyone standing there to monitor, and no longer anyone standing guard to wait for results. The boundary between you and the quiet night will completely vanish, and that is when the great intelligence of life begins the work of overhauling your entire body in the absolute freedom of the darkness. My dear friend, we have gone through the complete journey of exploring the secret of healing right before sleep arrives. I want you to carry one final and most profound awareness before truly vanishing into the stillness of tonight. We often mistakenly think that healing is an action that one must effort to perform, a list of things to be completed, or a goal to be chased to achieve visible results. But the ancient wisdom of the Buddha and the Masters always reminds us of a contrary truth, that healing actually is not an action, but is a mild climate. Imagine a forest after a great storm. No one can use their hands to force each leaf to grow back immediately, or force sap to flow faster inside the tired tree trunk. The wise forester only needs to create a quiet environment, clear away obstacles preventing light and water sources, and then the forest itself will revive itself according to an inherent sacred rhythm of nature. Your body and soul are exactly like that. The deepest healing does not require you to do any more new or complex things. It only asks you to keep less tension and interfere less in the natural flow of life right before you go to sleep. What we practiced in the past 3 minutes is actually not to repair the body with techniques, but to create a climate of most complete letting go. It is the atmosphere of safety, where the nervous system no longer has to be alert, where the mind no longer has to be on duty, and where the ego accepts being absent to make room for self-recovery wisdom to operate. Monastics in the past did not heal the body while they were sleeping. They performed that by protecting and cherishing the moment of doing nothing at all. Right before sleep came, they stopped interrupting their bodies so life could do its own miraculous work. Tonight, I invite you to do the same. Let today be ended without an answer, and let your role have the curtain lowered without needing any applause. If the space of Daily Dharma Light brings you relief, so one more good connection by leaving a confirmation with your consciousness in the comments that I protect my moment before sleep tonight. Wishing you a very peaceful and complete night in the arms of absolute letting go, peace in mind and body. Goodbye, and see you again.